I'm just a regular guy, nothing special. Work as a mechanic. Not exactly glamorous, but it pays the bills. Been married to Laura for almost 10 years. We seemed happy, I thought we were. Hell, I still remember when we first met. She had that spark, you know? Everything felt right. But recently, things felt off. I noticed it slowly, like a flicker in the corner of my eye. She'd stay out later than usual, and when she did come home, she was always on her phone. Didn't seem like anything at first. People get busy, right? Could have been work, could have been anything. I kept telling myself I was overthinking it, just paranoia creeping in. We've been together a long time. I should know her better than that. But then the changes piled up. She started skipping dinner, leaving her plate half-eaten. Her routines shifted. She'd leave in the morning without a word, spend hours texting or scrolling while we were supposed to be talking. I didn't say anything at first. Didn't want to be that guy. The one who suspects everything, the guy who's always second-guessing. One night, though, I found a number on her phone. A guy's name, I didn't recognize it. I confronted her about it. She shrugged it off, said it was nothing. Just someone from work, she told me. Like that explained it. I believed her, I guess. I wanted to, but there was a voice in the back of my head, getting louder with every excuse she made. It wasn't a big deal, right? It was just one number. But something about it didn't sit right. Kept going, her distance, her preoccupation. She was always at work. At first, I told myself it was just a phase. Everyone gets caught up sometimes, right? But it didn't stop. Every evening, she'd come home late, sometimes after 9, sometimes closer to midnight. Always on her phone. Always distracted. One night, she came home smelling like cheap perfume, the kind that clings to you. Her shirt was wrinkled, like she'd been sitting around for hours. I didn't say anything right away, but it hit me hard. She'd been with someone else. I wasn't stupid. I knew. I could feel the anger building in me. Not yet, I told myself. Not yet. She passed by me on her way to the bedroom, like she was trying to avoid me, but I couldn't just let it go. I stopped her in the hallway. "Where were you?" I asked. It wasn't angry, just direct. But it felt like it hung in the air, thick. She looked at me, eyes flicking over my face. "Work," she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. At this hour? I couldn't stop myself from asking. My gut was twisting, and I couldn't pretend it wasn't. Her eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" I swallowed, taking a step back. "Nothing," I muttered, but I couldn't shake the feeling. I knew she was lying. And that fucking perfume? Couldn't ignore it. The next night, I tried something different. I suggested we go out for dinner, just the two of us. I figured I'd test the waters, see if she was still into us. Into me. "How about we grab dinner after work?" I asked casually, but it felt like my voice was a little too high, a little too strained. She didn't even look up from her phone. "I can't. I've got stuff to do," she said, waving a hand. No explanation. Just a cold dismissal. That was when I felt it. The distance wasn't just physical, it was emotional, too. She was pulling away, shutting me out. And the worst part? I didn't know why. I noticed everything after that. The way she tapped at her phone. Her expression distant as she skimmed through texts, or whatever the hell was on there. I noticed how short she'd get when I asked simple questions. Little things like that. When she didn't answer right away, or when she'd snap, "I'm not in the mood right now," and shut herself off. Not a fight, not a reason, just cold. I wanted to shake her, yell at her, but I held back. Maybe that's what pissed me off the most. How calm she was about it all. Like none of this mattered. Like I didn't matter. I could feel it, her pulling away more every day. And I hated it. I hated that I was the last one to figure it out. The nights kept getting later. Laura would come home with more excuses. Work ran late. Or, I had to meet a client. They didn't add up. One time, she said she was at some work function I'd never heard of. Another time, she claimed a coworker needed help on a project and she was the only one who could do it. It wasn't just the late nights. It was the things she didn't say. The way she'd leave out details. The way she'd rush through the door. and not even give me a chance to ask questions before she was already in the other room, lost in her phone again. I didn't know what to believe anymore, but I wasn't stupid. I knew something was off, so I decided to get a little more proactive. I started paying closer attention to her schedule, watching for patterns. When she said she'd be at work, I kept track of the time. One night, I knew she was supposed to be working late, so I made up some excuse to drive by her office. I wasn't expecting to find anything, but I had to know. When I pulled up to her building, I didn't see her car in the parking lot. But there were other cars I didn't recognize, a few of them parked close to the entrance. I waited for a while, just long enough to feel stupid, like maybe I was just being paranoid. Then I saw her walking out. She was laughing with a few people I didn't know, heading to a car I didn't recognize. They piled in, and she climbed into the back seat with one of the guys, her hand on his shoulder. I didn't stick around. I just drove home, fists clenched on the wheel. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I didn't need to. I knew enough now. I didn't need her telling me some bullshit about work anymore. That wasn't the worst part, though. The worst part came a few days later. We were in the car together, driving home from dinner, when her phone buzzed. She didn't answer it, but I saw her glance at the screen. A couple of seconds later, she turned it face down. That wasn't unusual for her. But then the voicemail alert popped up. I didn't think anything of it until I heard the voice. It was a man's voice, soft and intimate, saying something like, "I can't wait to see you again, baby." I froze. The weight of it settled in thick and cold. Before I could react, Laura grabbed her phone and quickly deleted the voicemail. Her fingers were shaky. She didn't look at me, didn't say a word. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. She didn't answer. Her jaw tightened, and she kept her eyes straight ahead, like she was waiting for me to stop asking. She could have said anything, could have lied better, but she just stayed silent. "Laura?" I pressed, but she still didn't answer. Not a word. That was it. The last bit of trust one had in her crumbled in that moment. I could feel it, the hollow weight of everything unraveling. It wasn't just a suspicion anymore. I had proof. Enough proof to confirm what I'd been feeling all along. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wasn't ready. But now I knew. Now, it wasn't about figuring out what was happening. It was about how I was going to handle it. And I wasn't going to let her pull me back in with excuses or apologies. The damage had been done, and I was done pretending I didn't see it. The next morning, I woke up alone. Laura wasn't in bed. I checked the time, 7 a.m. I didn't need to look for her car outside to know she hadn't come home. I stood at the window for a minute, trying not to think about what I already knew. The longer I waited, the more I could feel my stomach knotting up. I could hear the thoughts turning in my head, loud, unrelenting. She'd stayed out again. Where had she gone? Who was she with? She came through the door around 7:30, looking like she'd been dragged through hell. Her hair was disheveled, like she hadn't even bothered to fix it, and she was still wearing the same clothes from the night before. A tight dress, wrinkled, like she'd slept in it. She froze when she saw me standing in the hallway, arms crossed. I didn't even need to ask. I already knew. The proof was staring me in the face. "Where were you?" I asked. My voice wasn't even loud. I didn't need to yell. She stammered for a second, clearly caught off guard. "I stayed at a friend's place," she said, her voice a little too quick, a little too defensive. I didn't believe her. Not for a second. Not anymore. I didn't say anything, just stared at her. Let her see that I was done pretending everything was fine. Laura shifted uncomfortably under my gaze. Her eyes darted to the floor, then back to me. "What? Are you seriously questioning me right now?" I felt a calm I hadn't felt in months. I was done. Done with the lies. I wasn't angry, not yet. Just done. "You know, I spoke with a lawyer yesterday," I said, keeping my voice steady, casual, like we were discussing the weather. "About divorce." Her face went pale like she'd been slapped. I could see the vulnerability in her eyes, the panic she hadn't even bothered to hide. She opened her mouth like she was going to say something, but the words didn't come. "What?" she said finally, her voice shaking. "You're just going to throw it all away?" I met her eyes. I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that. She tried to laugh it off, but it wasn't convincing. Came out shaky, strained. You're being dramatic, she said, her voice rising a little. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? I asked, letting the words hang in the air. I've been watching you for months, Laura. I see the way you've been acting, the way you've been lying to me. She backed up a step, rubbing her hands on her jeans like she was trying to ground herself. This is insane, she muttered, her eyes flicking away. You don't know what you're talking about. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I know enough. I know you've been seeing someone else. I know you've been lying to me, and I'm done pretending it's all okay. Her face twisted in a mixture of fear and anger. You don't know what you're talking about, she repeated. But this time it was less confident, more desperate. I could see the shift in her. She was used to controlling the situation, used to deflecting, but I wasn't letting her do it anymore. I wasn't going to fall for her games. She stepped toward me, reaching out for my arm. Please, you don't have to do this, she said, her voice breaking. We can fix this. I can change. Just give me a chance. I pulled my arm away, steady, deliberate. No, you've had enough chances. I'm not going to keep trying to fix something that's already broken. Her face crumpled, and for a second, I saw the person I used to know, vulnerable, scared. But it was too late. I wasn't her safety net anymore. I took a slow breath, and when I spoke, my voice was final. I'm done, Laura. I'm done trying to save something that you clearly don't care about. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't try to stop them. She just stood there, silent, looking like she didn't know who she was anymore. And I stood there, watching her, feeling the weight of everything that had fallen apart. This wasn't something we could come back from. She knew it and I knew it. The rest of her words died in her throat, and I didn't need to hear them. For the next few days I didn't confront her. I wasn't sure I needed to yet. My mind was already made up, but I still needed proof, something concrete. I couldn't just walk away based on feelings alone. I had to know for sure. I needed to be able to look at her and know that everything I thought was true wasn't just paranoia. So I started keeping track. Every night I made notes of when she left, what she said, what time she came home. It was like I was documenting a crime scene. And I suppose, in a way, I was. Her excuses kept getting thinner, and I found myself noticing even the smallest details. When she came home late, her breath smelled like alcohol. She'd wear the same perfume that I'd smelled that first night. Cheap, cloying. That wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the way she'd act when I asked her questions. She'd give short, clipped answers, her gaze drifting to her phone or out the window. I knew something was off, but I couldn't prove it. So I took it a step further. One night, I planted a voice recorder in her car. She didn't know it, of course. I told myself it was just to hear her talk about her day, about work, about anything, but deep down, I knew what I was really hoping for. Proof. I needed to hear her admit it, to hear it in her own voice. It wasn't long before I got what I was looking for. A couple of days later, I got in the car, plugged in the recorder, and listened. I tried to ignore the weight in my chest, but it grew heavier with every minute. The first few minutes were nothing, just the hum of the engine, the sound of her moving around. But then it happened. I could hear her voice clearly, and then another voice. A man's voice, deep and familiar. My stomach twisted. Are you sure you want to keep doing this? The man asked. Laura's voice followed. I just don't know how much longer I can keep pretending, she said. I can't stand it. I wish he would just leave already. Felt like a punch to the gut. My hand gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, but I couldn't stop listening. The man said something I couldn't quite make out, but then Laura responded. It's just so hard. I hate lying to him, but it's not like I can just tell him. He wouldn't understand. You don't know how long I've been trying to hold this together. It wasn't even the words that hit hardest. It was the casualness of it all. The way she spoke about me, like I wasn't even there, like I didn't matter. I know, the man said, his voice low, but you have to be honest with yourself, Laura. You've been with him for years. but it's not him you want." There was a long pause. My heart beat in my ears as I waited for her to answer. When she did, it was a whisper. "I know." It was a confirmation. A gut-wrenching, soul-shaking confirmation that she'd been seeing someone else. For months. Probably longer. I hit pause. My hands were shaking, and my mind was racing. I wanted to scream, to confront her right then and there. But I couldn't. I had all the proof I needed now. I didn't need to hear any more. I sat there for what felt like forever, the car still running, the recording still playing. But I wasn't listening anymore. I wasn't sure what I was doing. I just knew that I was done. It wasn't even about catching her anymore. I'd known for weeks, maybe longer. I wasn't going to waste another minute pretending. I needed to end this. For both of us. The marriage, the lies, everything. But I wasn't ready to confront her yet. Not until I had a plan in place. Not until I had everything lined up. She wasn't going to control this anymore. The morning felt like any other. The air was thick with silence as Laura sat at the kitchen table, pushing her cereal around, avoiding my eyes like she always did. The usual routine. But inside I was ready. Ready to finally say what I'd been holding back for too long. I hadn't been this calm in weeks. There was something about the clarity I had now, the cold certainty that everything was done, that made me feel steady. No more drama. No more games. It was time for this to end. I grabbed my coffee, sat down across from her, and took a sip. I kept my voice even, my tone casual. "By the way, I spoke to the lawyer yesterday," I said, leaning back in my chair, pretending like we were just talking about bills or errands. "The divorce papers are ready. We should probably start the process soon." The spoon in her hand dropped with a clink against the bowl, and her eyes snapped to mine. For a second, she just froze. Like she didn't understand what I'd said. Like it didn't register. "Excuse me?" she said, her voice small, but her face betraying the panic she was trying to hide. "You heard me?" I said, taking another sip of my coffee, watching her struggle. "I'm done, Laura. We're done." She swallowed hard, trying to compose herself, but I saw the way her fingers trembled around the edge of her cup. You're not serious," she said, shaking her head. "You don't mean that." I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I had spent 10 years with, the one who'd built up this life with me, and now she was a stranger. "Yeah, I mean it," I said. "The papers are ready. We can file today if you want, or we can just figure out when to tell people." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "You're really doing this? You're just gonna throw it all away?" she asked, her voice rising, but the panic in her eyes told me everything. She wasn't expecting me to be this calm, this steady, this certain. I wasn't the guy who would beg anymore. I didn't answer her, just let the silence stretch between us. I knew she wanted more. She wanted me to show that I cared, that I was conflicted, that I'd be willing to fight. She wanted to be in control. And that's when it hit me. She thought I'd beg. She thought I'd cry and plead and ask for another chance. Like she had all the power. She thought I'd be the one to fight for her. That realization hit me like a cold slap. "You were supposed to fight for me," she said, her voice quieter now, but there was desperation in it. She was reaching, trying to make me feel guilty, trying to flip the script. It almost made me laugh. The audacity of it. After everything she'd done, everything she hadn't done, she still thought I'd be the one begging for her back? I didn't even flinch. "I've fought for you, Laura," I said, my voice firm, "for years. But I'm done fighting for something that doesn't exist anymore." Her face twisted, and she stood up quickly, knocking her chair back. "You don't know what you're doing," she said, voice trembling. "You'll regret this. You're throwing everything away." I stood up too, setting my coffee down. I wasn't going to let her guilt trip me any longer. I've already made up my mind. She was looking at me now with a mix of confusion and hurt, the kind of look that might have broken me a few months ago. But not anymore. I turned and started walking out of the kitchen, hearing her call after me. "Don't walk away from this. Don't do this to us." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. It was over. She knew it, I knew it, and no amount of guilt or manipulation was going to change that. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The next morning, Laura tried to pull out every card in the book. I woke up to the smell of eggs and bacon. She was in the kitchen, flipping pancakes, humming a little. Took me a second to even process it. She hadn't made breakfast in years. The smell was almost nostalgic, the kind of thing I used to look forward to. But now it just felt empty. "You hungry?" she asked, glancing over her shoulder. She was trying so hard to act normal, but the tension in the room was suffocating. I wasn't hungry. I wasn't anything. But I sat down at the table anyway, just to see what she'd do next. She set a plate in front of me, her hands shaking slightly as she placed the fork next to it. "This is nice," I said, not because I meant it, but because it felt like something I should say, like this moment was supposed to mean something. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I know things have been hard, but we can fix this. We can." I didn't respond. I took a bite of the eggs, though I barely tasted them. She stood across from me, waiting for something. Maybe a reaction, maybe a sign that I was still the guy who cared. But I wasn't that guy anymore. That night, after I got home from work, I walked into the living room and saw her standing in front of me, wearing lingerie I hadn't seen in years. She was trying to be seductive, pulling out all the stops, but it felt wrong. It felt like a manipulation, not an attempt at intimacy. "Laura," I said, shaking my head, "you're not fooling me." Her face faltered for just a second. Then she smiled again, more desperate this time. "I know I've messed up, but I still love you. I'll do whatever it takes." I felt nothing. Her words meant nothing. The intimacy she was offering felt like a cheap attempt to take control back, like she thought I'd fall for it. "I'm done, Laura," I said. "This isn't about me being mad or needing time. It's done." Later that week, she broke. She was sitting on the couch when I walked in, her face red and blotchy. She hadn't been crying like this before. Not when she'd messed up. Not when she'd been out all night with him. "I'm sorry," she said, the words coming out in a rush. "I never meant for things to get this bad. I didn't mean to hurt you." I stood there watching her. The tears weren't what got to me. It was the way she said it. She wasn't crying because she loved me, or because she felt bad about what she'd done. She was crying because she was losing control. She didn't want to lose the life we built, the house, the comfort, the security. "You're sorry," I repeated, but it wasn't a question. "But you're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry because you're losing me." Her eyes widened, like I'd hit her with something she wasn't prepared for. She stood up quickly, pacing the room. "I never wanted to hurt you. This is all just a misunderstanding. Okay? You don't know everything." I couldn't believe she was still trying to pull this off. "A misunderstanding?" I said, stepping forward, my voice cold. "There's nothing misunderstood about this, Laura. You've been seeing someone else for months. I have proof. I've known for weeks. You didn't think I would figure it out, did you?" Her face went pale. I could see the panic setting in, and I didn't care. "I didn't want this to happen. I wanted to fix it, I swear," she said, her voice breaking now. I didn't know what to do." "Well, it's too late," I said. "You made your choice a long time ago." She stepped closer, pleading now. "Please don't throw it all away. I can change. Please just let me fix it." I shook my head. "You can't fix this. It's broken beyond repair." I turned and walked toward the door. She called after me, but I didn't turn back. "I'm done, Laura. I'm done." She didn't follow me this time. I could hear her in the other room, trying to hold it together, but I didn't need to see her anymore. There was no coming back from this. The life we had was gone, and I was ready to move on. The next few days were a whirlwind of desperation on Laura's part. First, it was the calls. She started calling her parents, then our friends, anyone she could get her hands on, trying to twist the situation, trying to make me out to be the bad guy. They didn't know the truth. None of them did. But I didn't care. She was trying everything. Guilt, anger, manipulation. One minute she was crying, the next she was shouting. I'd hear her talking to her mom in the other room, telling her how cold, How I was throwing away our life, without even trying. But I wasn't listening to any of it. She'd already made her choices, and I was done. The worst part? She still didn't get it. She still didn't understand that there was no fixing this. She called me a coward for not fighting for her, for not begging her to stay. But I wasn't the one who needed to be convinced. I wasn't the one who'd betrayed everything. I wasn't the one who thought it was okay to lie for months. She tried a new angle. She started talking about the man she'd been seeing, calling him up, whispering his name as if I was supposed to feel threatened, like I was supposed to care. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mix of frustration and fury. "You're just gonna throw everything away? After everything we've been through? We were good together once, you remember that, right?" I stared at her, cold. "No, I remember how it used to be. I remember the good times. But I also remember the lies, the cheating. I remember everything." She scoffed, her hands flying up in frustration. "You're just going to leave me here with nothing? No explanation, no fight from you?" I didn't flinch. "I fought for you. For years. I tried, Laura. But this isn't something I can fight for anymore." She stepped toward me, eyes wide with panic. "You're acting like this is some easy decision. Like I've never meant anything to you. You're the one who's throwing this away. Don't you dare act like I'm the only one who messed up here." I met her anger with silence. She was unraveling now, and I wasn't going to get sucked back in. She was trying to twist it all, making me out to be the bad guy. But I knew the truth. I knew what she had done, and I knew that no amount of screaming or tears could change it. "You signed the papers," I said flatly, the weight of those words sitting between us. "You don't get to make me the villain now." Her face crumpled. She reached out, her voice breaking as she said, "I didn't want this. I didn't want any of this. I'm sorry. Please just don't do this." I watched her, the tears streaming down her face, the way she tried to reach for me, but I couldn't move, couldn't care. Not anymore. "You should have thought about that before you started lying," I said, my voice steady. "Before you made your choice. This is the consequence." Her sobs broke the silence, but I couldn't feel it. The weight of it was gone. The anger, the hurt. It was all fading. "This isn't something we can fix," I said again, my voice finally breaking through the noise of her tears. "I've made my decision, and I'm not changing my mind. Not for you, not for anyone." She broke down, falling to her knees, her sobs echoing in the room, but I didn't move. I didn't even feel pity. I was done. Done with the lies, done with the manipulation, done with everything she had put me through. I walked out, not looking back, and left her there. The finality of it all was a relief. There was no going back now. The truth was already out. The marriage was over, and I was done trying to fix something that had already been broken for far too long. A few days later, I woke up and knew it was time. I couldn't do this anymore. Pretend like we were still living in the same house, sharing the same space. I was done. I called her into the living room and told her it was time to go. "You're not staying here," I said, my voice cold, no emotion behind it. "I already made arrangements." Her face twisted in disbelief. "What are you talking about? Where am I supposed to go?" I stood there, arms crossed, unwavering. "You're not staying here. I'm the one with the deed and the mortgage. It's my house now." She tried to argue, tried to pull her usual tricks. Guilt trips, begging, but I wasn't listening. I wasn't going to be swayed. I'd made up my mind. The life we'd built together was gone, and I wasn't letting her linger in the space where it used to be. She picked up the phone and started making calls, desperation creeping into her voice. Her mom, her friends. Anyone she could think of to avoid facing the consequences of what she'd done. But I just stood there, watching her scramble, knowing it was already too late for her. I wasn't even angry anymore, just done. A few weeks later, I saw her for the first time since she left. It wasn't on purpose. I was at the grocery store, picking up some things for the weekend. As I was walking down an aisle, I ran into an old friend of mine who still kept in touch with people we both knew. He looked at me, then looked back at Laura, who was walking past with her head down, clearly trying to avoid attention. He shook his head. Man, Laura's hit rock bottom. She's living with her parents now, broke as hell, struggling to get by. It's sad, honestly. I didn't feel anything. No pity, no anger. I just nodded and turned away, moving on with my day. She wasn't my problem anymore. I'd rebuilt my life. I had a routine, friends who supported me, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally moving forward. I was better off. I was free, and I wasn't going back.